My name's Kurt Robinson, and I run this bar, a sober bar. It's called El Sentido here in Colonia Americana in Guadalajara.
Hey, Jen Max, you just met Kurt, and he's been in Guadalajara for about 6 years now, and he runs, as he mentioned, this sober bar. So this is a non-alcoholic bar. Get all sorts of things that don't involve alcohol. Living in Mexico, as a foreigner, there can be a lot of pressure to drink, and been wanting to do a video about being sober in Mexico, and so that's what this video is starting out. That topic is starting with a bar. If you're in Guadalajara, this is a great option for you. There's not a heck of a lot of them around town, but let's hear all about this bar, other bars that he knows about, and his journey to starting this.
Yeah, there was a time, it was about two and a half years ago, I guess, when I ended up drinking in the park at 4 a.m. with a friend. And after that night, we said to each other, maybe we shouldn't drink so much. Also, in parallel, as I went more into my spirituality, like reading about yoga and Buddhism and other stuff, I noticed how much these things could be detrimental to a spiritual path. So I wanted to dedicate myself more to having a clean body so I could purify the mind.
That's great. We're going to get more into that in terms of what happens in this space beyond just being a regular bar. But let's hear about starting up the bar.
Yeah, there were a lot of elements there. So one thing was, I mentioned to you the other day about how I started researching history, and I found out that there were sober bars in the past. They called them temperance bars, or in Australia we had things called coffee palaces, which were big hotels, some of them really big, like 400 rooms, and they wouldn't serve any alcohol there. And at the time, the temperance movement was a big thing. I'm not sure exactly what happened. That bit of history seems to be still a bit fuzzy. But I started to wonder, well, if such a thing existed in the past, why couldn't it exist again? And actually, there is still one bar in the world which survives from that time. It's a bar called Mr. Fitzpatrick's in England, I think in the north of England. And they're still going for more than, I think more than 130 years. They've been there serving non-alcoholic drinks. It's a good place for the whole family, and they even export the syrups and stuff that they serve for health purposes and for enjoyment. So I started to wonder about that, and close to a year ago, a friend of mine offered to invest. He said, if you have a business idea, then maybe I could invest in that. So I started thinking, like, I had that idea about sober bars in the back of my mind. So I started researching more and talking to people about it. I talked to my friend in Texas, who's sometimes a mentor of mine, my friend Luis Fernando, and he said to me, just keep talking about it. So I did. I talked to a lot of people about it. Anybody who would listen, I would talk to about my idea. And I found that there was a lot of interest. So some people around my age, I'm 41 now, some people would say, wow, I've been to bars, I've done all that, and now I feel like doing something else. I still want to go out, but I don't want to get into those awful states. And then many young people actually said to me, yeah, I've never touched alcohol, and I don't want to. I've seen what it's done to people, so I don't want to touch it. So I thought, well, there could be a space for us. There could be somewhere where we do things differently. I was walking around here on the plaza. I have a connection here to the plaza by the Templo Expiatorio. For years I've been coming here, like on Saturdays and Sunday nights. They set up stalls in the plaza here with vegan and vegetarian food, and I thought this would be a great place. I saw the for rent sign on this on this location, and I think it had been empty for maybe close to 2 years. So I contacted them, and we started making a deal, started figuring out the specifics of it. And yeah, the licensing, that was a tricky thing with the bureaucracy. I remember I went to the office of, it's called Padrón y Licencias. I went there for 3 or 4 times, and they kept putting all these barriers in front of me. I'm sure you know Brighton, what it's like with Mexican bureaucracy. And eventually I said to them, look, I've come back here 4 times. I'm trying to do this thing. I'm just trying to do the right thing and get the license. Please, I am begging you. Can you do something for me? And they got the boss over, and the boss was just like, yeah, just let it through. There's still a little bit of working through the cracks there, but somehow I managed to get that license for it's called a soda fountain license. So that was a tricky thing. You've got to be prepared to mess around a little bit with bureaucracy. Yeah, there were a whole bunch of things I had to learn, like really basic handyman skills, like how to hang a painting or something like that. Put in a little, I don't even know what they call them, like a taquete or something like that. It's like you drill something into the wall so you can put a screw into the wall. These things I had to learn because I didn't know about this stuff. And like this, you can see here, like the wall. I started scratching off the paint, and I noticed all these cool colors and textures and stuff. And I thought, wow, how can I do something creative with this? So I put the projector and put the outline of Australia there. Behind you, Brighton, there's an outline of Texas. My business partner's from Texas. And in the other room, I guess you see later, there's a map of the Mexican Republic. That was another thing that I could do to make this place unique. I was also thinking about, I was in Budapest for a few days. And at the time, the big thing was the ruins bars, which is like, people would go to the Jewish quarter of town, and they found a place that was kind of run down and maybe nobody owned it or nobody wanted to own it. So they would just take it, they put in a bunch of secondhand furnishings and stuff, and they turn it into something really cool. So it was like, oh, well, that's kind of a style that I could take advantage of, something that doesn't cost a lot of money but makes something unique. So that was another thing I was thinking about. Before I did the opening party, I started to do events here just in this little room. At the time, the kitchen wasn't even finished yet, so it was like washing the glasses in buckets and just improvising to try to serve people and get the place open as soon as I could. I think that's a really important principle. It's like, I guess you call it speed of implementation. Is like, if you can get going faster in whatever way, even if it's imperfect, then that will open up new possibilities, and people come in and see the space and they offer ideas, and there's all kinds of things that can happen when you just start taking action. And then, yeah, eventually at the end of June 2024, we had the opening party. And there was about 20 people, maybe 25 people who came and really enjoyed it. And a lot of the things I've been doing are based around personal development. Like on Wednesdays, a lot of people come and talk about their habits and how to improve their habits. On Saturdays, we do a language exchange. So people come and learn Spanish or they learn English, and we play a bunch of games, which is important too. Like I have a bunch of board games in there, but there's also really simple things. You don't need a board even to play a game. You can just do some stuff with pieces of paper, which is another, like, it's one of those things. You don't have to let your resources get in the way of having a good time. And that's something cool because, of course, a lot of people are out there and they think, well, how can I have a good time? And they have alcohol, which it's not a healthy way to live. And you can, by limiting yourself a little bit, you open up these parts of creativity, and you think about things in new ways. How can I have fun? How can I actually turn this into something that's going to be helpful for everybody.
So yeah, this is a very cool space, just a series of different rooms, and I'm looking forward to coming back here and experiencing it this evening. We're here when it's closed for this interview, but I want to know more about the drinks. So we talking Shirley Temples, or what are the drinks going to look like?
I did try to make a Shirley Temple, but I tried to find grenadine, which is a key ingredient for a Shirley Temple. And it wasn't easy to get. Like everything, they were selling this really cheap stuff, which is artificial grenadine. And I was like, I don't want to use that. I don't feel safe serving that to my customers. So I invented another drink, which is kind of similar, you see here. So this, instead of a Shirley Temple, it's an expiatorio temple. Those are the temple just out here. So this is it says sweet mix of ginger, rose water, and red currant, and that it's also got apple cider vinegar in it. So it's blended up with ice and then served with a cherry on top, just like you would with a Shirley Temple. And yeah, other cocktails as well. So I know people call them mocktails. I don't really like that term, because mock is like saying, oh, it's fake. It's not fake. This is a real drink. This is something that's good for you. So on the menu here, it says cocktails. And in other contexts, sometimes I just call them prepared drinks. And there's other stuff like here, Serenity and Tonic. So Serenity it's called a non-alcoholic spirit. It's a blend of herbs and spices, and it has some nootropics, adaptogens, like it has ashwagandha. I think it has reishi in it as well. And these things, again, with the health properties. And then, yeah, there's a bunch of stuff here, like ginger beer, prepackaged mixed drinks, Malta, which is a strange tasting drink. It's very popular in Colombia and Venezuela. I got this quote in the menu here from my friend who's from Colombia. It says, Malta, it's like Coca-Cola and beer had a child. And yeah, it's sodas, herbal infusions, kombucha is a big thing. So I have a couple of brands of kombucha. One from my friend Julieta has a brand, Shikabuch. Non-alcoholic beers, hot chocolate, coffee, and I serve tapas and soup as well. So yeah, a bunch of stuff here.
Let's talk money. So maybe we'll talk a little bit about what the cocktails cost, also what rent is here, and then we're going to go and hear about, just really briefly, about where Kurt lives, which is not too far away, and what the rent is like over there.
So I have, with the drinks, the costs are like, they range from about 30 pesos to about 100 pesos. So I try to have something cheap on the menu here so people don't feel excluded if they have limited means. So people can come in and get a ginger ale or something like that. But then, yeah, the more expensive mixed drinks are like 80, 100 pesos. If you get a cocktail in a bar around here, probably be a little bit more expensive, maybe 120 pesos.
Yeah, when I was doing my research on sober bars, I found that things were similar in price. So they're a little bit less expensive here, but the gist of it is you're making a mixed drink, and the alcohol isn't necessarily the most expensive part of it. So something to think about there is it's not necessarily a money-saving thing, but it could be, especially when you're out on the beach and you're drinking margaritas or pina coladas versus piñatas. Piñatas are always, maybe $1.50 less or something like that. But let's hear about rent here.
The rent here, I pay 13,000 pesos. And for the room that I rent, which is just a couple of doors up, I pay 7,000 pesos. And that's for the area, I guess that's about average. The Colonia Americana, because it's a kind of trendy area, then the prices are a bit higher around here. So if you go a couple of suburbs over, you probably get something, I don't know, 2/3 of that. But it's also, like, because of the location of the bar right on the plaza, it's elevated because of that. So maybe a few streets away, it would be less.
So let's hear, Kurt is from Australia, and I think of Australia as a place with not a lot of Spanish speakers in it. So let's hear about not only his language abilities, but also who are the typical clients that come in.
I started learning Spanish in Australia. I took an audio course, the Pimsleur audio course, which is a really great way of starting to learn a language, like 30 minutes a day, and it keeps asking you, it's constantly testing you or constantly getting you to construct new sentences. It's a really good way to learn a language, to get started. I highly recommend it. And then I studied in Colombia for a couple of months. I had a private tutor for a month and a half, and then I took an intensive course at AFIT University there in Medellin. And then when I finally got to Mexico to live, that was more the immersive experience, or more the how can I say it? It's not like the skin in the game. So, okay, I really got to learn to communicate here. You could probably get by. You could get by pretty well in Guadalajara without speaking Spanish, but you're going to miss out on a lot of things. You're going to miss out on a lot of cultural understanding and nuance, and how to adapt to people and read social cues and all this stuff, and understand the culture at a deeper level. So it's definitely. It's not just a question of practicality. It's a question of the internal life quality, like how much you're going to dive into things and really experience life. Yeah, it was interesting last Saturday because a fellow came in and he said, "Oh, so you get people coming in here from India and people like Belgian background and people from France," and I was like, "Yeah." He said, "I didn't realize that there could be a place like this where so many international people come." And I said, "Thanks," because it hadn't occurred to me that this place was attracting people like that. But it is. So most of the people who come here are Mexican, and yeah, some people work in IT and they're engineers and architects and stuff, and some just regular jobs working in call centers, and I guess there's all kinds of people who come here.
Great. I'm definitely seeing that the people that I'm interviewing in Guadalajara have much better command of the Spanish language than the people out in La Paz. I think it's just Guadalajara is so much more of a real experience, a real Mexican city than even La Paz, which is pretty much a real Mexican city compared to like Cabo or something like that. But let's, before we wrap it up, get a tip here for anyone who's thinking about moving to Mexico and maybe starting a business down here.
One thing that's really important, like I referred to earlier, is just taking action. And it can be a small action, it can be a big action. Things are relatively open here compared to the US or Australia. So you can do a lot of things, and you don't necessarily need a license in some cases. Like there's a lot of ways to work between the cracks. And what some people will do starting a business is they'll just buy a cart, or they'll have like a tricycle and they'll start selling goods out in the street. And that's a good way to get experience. So if you need to start small, there's no shame in it. It's a good way to get started. And then you can build your network and build your skills out from there. Another thing, like I mentioned, my buddy Luis Fernando Mises, he said, just keep talking. So yeah, the more I would talk to people about it, the more I would get their input and get their ideas and start to polish my own ideas and see what it was really about. Another thing he said to me, which turned out to be true, was it's going to take longer than you think, and it's going to cost more than you think. So when you're doing the budget and you think, I have enough money to do this, probably think, well, maybe I need like 150% or maybe 200% just to be safe, and make sure you have that. Because like I was mentioning to you about how a contact in Merida ended a business after a couple of months, and I don't know her exact situation, but I think what happens is you get those couple of months in, and then the money runs out. So make sure you have enough money or some kind of other plan to get through those rough patches that you might face in the first couple of years of business.
So that other business that Kurt mentioned was another sober bar in Merida. I mentioned, hey, I could tack that on to the end of this video, and he found that they actually had closed after just a few months. So make sure if you've got a business or if you're starting a business anywhere in the world that you have a ramp that's longer than that. But now I want to take a quick break here to show you a little bit of the bar in action, because I'm coming back on Saturday night.
I like to come to this bar, firstly because they have not alcoholic and also have a tertulian intellectual talks as well.
I want to learn English for my project, Raíces Ancestrales.
You need to come for practice español.
I like to come to this place because only healthy people here.
I like to come here because it's not only a bar, it's a community.
Like this bar because I met a lot of interesting people and also the food is very tasty.
So I had kombucha tonight. It was really great. Everyone sitting around having a good time, meeting other people, and there was no alcohol involved. So this is definitely something that is a great opportunity. If you're here in Guadalajara, come by and see it. Otherwise, I've got some more videos up here for you to check out from Guadalajara and beyond. Wish you were here. Hasta luego.